Hello and welcome! Today we have another DJI Pocket 3 in-depth video, and today's focus is going to be on the battery. How much recording time can you really get out of the battery? How quickly can you recharge it? What difference does using the battery extension handle really make? All this and a whole lot more coming up. So if you've been following the channel, you'll know that I've posted quite a few videos recently focused on the DJI Osmo Pocket 3. I did a review and comparison to the Pocket 2. We did an in-depth look at face and subject tracking. We took a detailed look at the Creator Combo Kit. And most recently, we played around with the slow motion capabilities of the Pocket 3. Now, quite a lot of the comments and questions that I received from those videos were about the battery of the Pocket 3, so that's what we want to focus on today. Now, as you probably know, the Pocket 3 does not have a removable battery, but DJI does make some pretty lofty claims when it comes to the battery life and the recharging capability of the Pocket 3. And we are going to be testing those out later on. But there's also quite a bit of additional information about the battery and charging the battery that we'll also cover in today's video. Now, as always, there's quite a bit to cover today, so I'm going to place the chapters up here. Those should also be available on the video timeline, so you can jump straight to the section or sections you're most interested in. And before we get started, the usual disclaimer, this video is not sponsored or paid for in any way. All of the equipment was purchased with my own money, and the opinions are entirely my own. And of course, if you enjoy the video and get good information out of it, please give us a thumbs up and also consider subscribing to the channel. Also, if you have any questions, any comments, if you want to share your experience around the DJI Pocket 3, please go ahead and put those into the comments section. So yeah, let's get on with it. So let's start with battery life. Now, the battery that's built into the Pocket 3 is a 1300 milliamp hour battery, and according to DJI, this will allow you to record for 166 minutes in 1080p, which is 2¾ hours, or if you record in 4K, you can get 116 minutes of recording time, which is just shy of 2 hours. And that's something we're definitely going to be testing later on. Now, I'm not going to test both 1080p and 4K. I think most people these days are recording in 4K, and also I think if we get anywhere close to the claimed recording times with 4K, we can assume that the same would be true for 1080p. Now, I think it's important also to point out that the Pocket 3 does support charging while it's operating and while it's recording. So if you plug in a power bank, you can extend your runtime for several hours, and if you plug into the wall, you can pretty much record indefinitely. And on the subject of power banks, DJI also offers this accessory, the battery extension handle, which, yes, it's a little bit more than a power bank, but at the end of the day, it's designed to extend the battery life of the Pocket 3. Now, the battery handle is 950 milliamp hours, and DJI claims this will extend your runtime by around 62%. So with this attached, that would mean 4½ hours of 1080p recording or over 3 hours of 4K recording. And yes, we're definitely going to test that out also. Okay, let's talk about charging. Now, there seems to be quite a bit of confusion from DJI when it comes to charging. If you look on the DJI website or in the user manual, the only specification on charging that you'll find is this one, which states that you can charge the Pocket 3 from 0 to 80% in 16 minutes or 0 to 100% in 32 minutes. Now, this is obviously using the new fast charging capability of the Pocket 3, but if you look at the footnotes, it tells you that this was done using a 65 watt charger. What is not clear is Do you have to have a 65-watt charger in order to get fast charging? Now, just to add to the confusion, if you look on the DJI website at recommended accessories for the Pocket 3, you will not find a 65-watt charger. What you will find is a 30-watt charger. Okay, so let's do the math. Now, fortunately, DJI have provided full information on the battery. So in addition to the capacity of 1300 milliamp hours, we also see that it operates at 7.7 volts and therefore has a total energy capacity of almost exactly 10 watt hours. Now, with the fastest fast charging, we know that we can get from 0 to 80% of that energy capacity in 16 minutes. And of course, 80% of 10 watt hours is 8 watt hours. So in order to get from 0 to 8 watt hours in 16 minutes, if you do the math, you actually only need to supply 30 watts. So when it comes to our charging test, we're going to test out a number of different chargers to see how fast the battery can be charged at different power ratings. Okay, so for those of you who've been following the channel for a while, you might recognize this test setup. Basically, I have reset this clock here to exactly 12 o'clock, and immediately I powered up the camera and started the recording. Now, what you're watching right now then is the camera recording itself and of course the clock in the mirror. It's recording at 4K 30 frames per second with everything in fully automatic mode. And of course it has a completely full battery. Now, once this part of the test is completed, I'm going to take the camera and completely charge it up again, and then I'm going to hand it over to this guy. That's right, and what I'm going to do is take the fully charged camera, place it on the fully charged battery grip, and then we're going to see exactly how long we can record using this configuration. And then we're going to synchronize these two video clips in the video editor, and let's see what happens. So let's sum up what we saw during the battery endurance testing. Now, before we start talking battery life, let me first just say how impressive I find it that this tiny little camera is actually even able to record at 4K for in excess of 3 hours. Now, I will say it does get pretty hot, particularly around the base of the gimbal area. See, this part is metal, and I'm assuming they use this specifically as a heat sink. And so this does get pretty hot after you've been running for a couple of hours. Now, it's not so hot you can't touch it, but it's pretty toasty. Now, as far as the battery performance was concerned, let's just recap what we said earlier. When you are recording in 4K, DJI claims that you should have an operating time of 116 minutes just from the camera on its own. If you add the battery extension handle, that will give you a 62% increase, which works out to 188 minutes. Now, what we saw during our results with the camera on its own, we got a recording time of 131 minutes, which is 13% more than DJI specified. And with the battery handle attached, we achieved 216 minutes, which is 15% more than DJI specified. And also, if we look at the actual impact of the battery handle, comparing our 131 minutes of the camera alone versus 216 minutes with the battery handle attached, that is actually a 65% increase in the overall operating time. So bottom line here, both the camera and the battery handle outperform the claims from DJI. Okay, let's now move on to battery charging. So as I said earlier, during this section, what we're going to do is we're going to see how fast can we charge the camera using chargers of different power ratings. So my test setup looks like this. As you can see, I have the camera placed next to a stopwatch so we can see the displays of both, and we're going to record that. I have the charging adapter plugged into a power strip, and what I'm going to do is turn on the power strip and start the stopwatch at exactly the same time, and then we're going to see how fast we can charge the battery. Now, we know that the fast charging operates pretty much in the range of 0 to 80%. Beyond 80%, the camera begins to slow the charge in order to protect the battery. So what we're looking for then is how fast can we get to the 80% mark, and then of course how fast can we get to the 100% mark. And when I say the 100% mark, we're talking about the point at which the display of the camera rolls over from 99% to 100%. Yes, I realize there are still maybe a few milliamps to be put into the battery at that point, but that's really the only indication we have, and that's the value we're going to take. Now, in my test setup, you can also see that I have a watt meter attached in line. So in addition to the power rating of the charging adapter, we're also going to measure the peak charging wattage during fast charging, and we'll put that into the results as well. So we have 3 different chargers that we're going to be testing today. First off, we're going to use a 65 watt charger to be sure that we're getting the absolute maximum charging power. Next, we're going to try a 30 watt charger, which, as we said earlier, should be enough to get us to that 80% within 16 minutes. And we're also going to try out a 20 watt charger to see how fast that will charge the camera. Okay, let's review the results from the charging tests. Starting out with, were we able to confirm DJI's fast charging claims? So if we look at the results from the 65-watt charger, you can see that instead of the claimed 16 minutes, we were a little bit beyond that at 16 minutes and 49 seconds. So we didn't quite make it on this run. But I do need to tell you that I had run this test previously, but unfortunately I was not able to use that video clip. But in that test I was able to charge to 80% in 16 minutes and 1 second, and I do have this still from the video which shows exactly that. So from my perspective, I would say we were definitely able to confirm DJI's fast charging claim from 0 to 80% in 16 minutes. Now, if we look at the 0 to 100% charging, DJI says you should be able to get there in 32 minutes. We absolutely smashed that result by getting there in less than 25 minutes. Yes, I know, just because the display on the camera shows 100% doesn't mean that you are exactly at 100%, but you have to keep in mind that we were a full 20% faster in getting to that value, and I'll take close to 100% in 25 minutes any day of the week. And so to the big question, is it really necessary to have a 65-watt charger in order to get those kind of results? And the simple answer is no, it is not, and here's why. Take a look at the results from all three chargers. Now, if the 65-watt charger was truly delivering 65 watts, you would expect the 30-watt charger to take more than twice that amount of time, and you would expect the 20-watt charger to take more than 3 times that amount of time. But you can see from the results that's clearly not the case. And that's where our watt meter comes in very handy, because using the watt meter I was able to measure exactly what charge is being delivered during that fast charging cycle. And here are those results. So the 65-watt charger was actually only charging at between 37 and 38 watts. So clearly that is the limitation coming from the DJI Pocket 3. My 30-watt charger was only delivering 28 watts, and my 20-watt charger was actually overperforming, delivering almost 22 watts. And if you take these values, you'll find that the time required for the fast charging is proportional to the actual wattage that we measured. And so the magic number then is around about 38 watts. So if you have a charger which is capable of delivering at least 38 watts, then you should expect to get from 0 to 80% in around 16 minutes. If you have a 20-watt charger, you can expect that time to be about double, around 30-32 minutes. If you have a 10-watt charger, then you're going to need over an hour to get to 80% capacity on the Pocket 3. Now you might be thinking, why would I use a 10-watt charger if I can charge much faster at 40 watts? But do keep in mind that fast charging is pretty aggressive on a lithium battery. So if you need to charge quickly, by all means use a high power charger, but if you don't need to be up and running as quickly, it's probably a good idea to use a standard low power charger, and that will be kinder on your battery in the long term. One other point here regarding charging versus fast charging. Now the camera will actually show you whether it is currently in fast charging mode or standard charging mode. And it seems to be based on the input wattage of the charger. So anything under around about 20 watts is considered standard charging, and this is how that looks on the display. Anything above around 20 watts is considered fast charging, and this is how that is indicated on the display of the camera. Now, there are some additional things to know about charging the Pocket 3. Now, when it comes to charging, of course, you have different options of how you connect the USB cable. You can connect it, of course, to the base of the camera itself. If you're using the standard extension handle, then the USB port is now here on the back of the extension handle, and this makes absolutely no difference in terms of the speed of charging. So if you connect a 30-watt charger into the back of this port, you will get 30 watts being delivered to the camera, just as if you were plugged in directly to the base of the camera. The same applies to the battery extension grip. When the battery handle is attached and you place a charger into the USB port on the back of the handle, again, it will provide the full power of that charger directly through to the camera. And that brings us on to the subject of the battery handle itself. Now, as we said previously, if you attach the battery handle and plug in a charger, the battery handle will pass the full power of the charger through to the camera, and it will actually completely charge the camera to 100%, and then, and only then, will it start to charge the handle. Now, if you are not plugged in and you are just charging the Pocket 3 from the handle, of course, does not fast charge the Pocket 3. It will charge it with a power of around about 15 watts. And if you were to plug the fully charged battery handle into the fully depleted camera, so 0% on the camera, it would be able to charge the camera to around about 62-63%, and it would do that in about 35 minutes. And also the handle itself cannot be fast charged. It also charges at a power of around about 15 watts and will be 100% charged also in around about 35 minutes. I think most Pocket 3 owners would prefer that the Pocket 3 had a removable and, of course, swappable battery. That would allow you, of course, to carry spare batteries around with you. But instead, DJI have gone down the path of providing extremely long lifetime, allowing you to record for several hours and then recharge the battery extremely quickly in a matter of minutes. And by doing so, I think they've also been able to create a smaller camera. I think the key question here is, how will that hold up in the long term? After a year or 2 years of recording for long periods and then charging the battery very rapidly, will I still be able to get several hours of operation out of a single charge? So that concludes our review of battery life and battery charging on the DJI Osmo Pocket 3. I hope you enjoyed it and got good information out of it. If so, please remember to give us a like and consider subscribing to the channel. Also, if you have any questions, any comments, if you wish to share your experiences with the Pocket 3, please go ahead and place those into the comments section also. Otherwise, thank you so much for watching.